Okay, I'm back for another go at the vivace section of the last movement of the Prokofiev Sixth. It's taking a bit of time, but things are progressing apace, as we say. So, let me try from 243 or so. So you could tell that I needed to think a bit. I was curious to see what would just plain stick out of the starting gates or whatever. So that was a decision point. In other words, this little sequence, now that I have a decent fingering, is more or less readable off the page. This is not. There's too many shifts in quick succession, and so I have to have in my head filed away a strategy that I can refer to each time. This is D minor, tilted, it's got two white notes and a black note. Something about the feel of it, because although we analyze memory often in terms of its visual memory, what it looks like on the page, what it looks like on the piano, oral memory, how it sounds, kinesthetic or tactile memory, how it feels, and then we add analytical memory, which relates to what are the harmonies, what's the melodic contour, that sort of thing. But part of the analytical memory is that which reinforces the senses. So, in other words, the way something looks or the way something feels. You define the black and white note key relatedness, that sort of thing. The tilt of the hand, so you have kinesthetic things. In other words, the overview that you have, the mental involvement in the learning process is an important component in all of the sensory input as well. So here, for example, I have a hand tilted playing a B minor chord. Now, when I play fourth finger on F, I've essentially given up that hand position. Even though I could play it, I don't play it with any degree of comfort. So the fourth shifts the way my hand feels as a unit. Here it feels tilted towards the F sharp. Here it feels tilted back, rotating back towards the thumb. But what my body or what my mind remembers is that pivot note, the bottom note, started off as a B, ends as a B. Then I play a 3-note scale. So it's, in fact, just in case I'm unaware of that, I'm going to do one of my square brackets. So it's this. Makes me, again, it's the way I analyze tongue twisters, makes me immediately feel a completely different sense of confidence and enables me to retain this solution much better because it's not just a repeated physical memory, but it's also a reinforced understanding of why that gesture works. So here, here, here. Nice. Now my left hand still has to come in. briefly because I don't want to get hung up on this passage. I know that it's coming, but I still have to reinforce the next page or so, and I want to go on, so I'm going to go on. Oh. Yes, yesterday I decided that the hand division that Prokofiev offers is of no value to me, at least not now. There's one place where it is of value. So, now that I know the analogous passage just before, I'm better equipped, at least know it better. I'm better equipped to be able to make the comparison with this passage, which is on a different pitch. This first one starts on C minor, and this one starts on E minor, a third above, major third above. But let me... because of, again, analytical with kinesthetic. In this case, there are 3 black notes, the thumb white note, all white notes. So the undulation is basically into the black notes, out for the white note keys. It's mildly simplistic, but because there are subtle gradations of gesture. Just as an aside, this kind of practice is very pleasurable for me because none of it is inherently physically awkward. In other words, I'm looking for solutions that just plain make me happy, that are elegant and graceful and efficient and result in something that sounds good. So it's worth it. There's an immediate motivation that says when I'm really on, everything is in place. There is other music that is so much on the edge of my capability or our human bodies and eyes and ears and mind's capability that you never know for sure what's going to happen. There's much more riskiness. This isn't a particularly risky passage. Not that I mind risk. I'm an adrenaline celebrator as much as anyone. But the fact is, this kind of passage pays off directly. You put in a certain kind of effort, you put in a certain expectation, and it pays in direct proportion to what you put into it, which is immensely gratifying. It's those moments of frustration where no matter what you do, you don't get back in proportion to what you put in. Those can be frustrating, certainly for students and teachers and performers of all sorts alike. So that's not bad. This is a crescendo. And that accent is important to recognize. Here. Now let me compare this. The first statement on C minor is mezzo piano. This one on... You'll notice I said on C minor, and by that I mean because it's so transitional. It starts on C minor. It certainly doesn't stay in the C minor, so I'm just trying to make that distinction in my head. The E minor one, which I will now make note of, is mezzo forte versus mezzo piano, so implying a certain intensification over time. Actually, we go much higher than that because this scale is the only forte in this vivace so far. The next one is going to be, when it gets to the top here, which compares to the mezzo forte of the first statement. The first statement starts mezzo piano, when it gets to the top it's mezzo. The second one starts mezzo, and at its top it's forte. So he's being consistent. This is about to be where I had this wonderfully scattered Well, I have a change fingering from yesterday. I want to see how it's going. But as you can see, some of this is sticking because even though I just tossed it off for the first time, I didn't have that many worries, which is good. Minor, I should be curious, let's see, minor, 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 minor. I'd have to say these triads, these little arpeggios, whether going up or coming down, tend to be in minor. And since I haven't found anything to the contrary, I will say beyond tend to be, they're all in minor in this section. So this is to file away. Alas, minors don't always feel the same way, so. Here's an interesting thing. If I accidentally play 1-3-5 on this D minor 268, then my whole fingering strategy for having the 2 available on the F, because it was already on the F, is out the window. So I absolutely want to insist that I'm going 1-2-4, because that leaves my F, my second finger on the F, where I can take full advantage of it. Otherwise it doesn't work. And that's particularly important because 3 times in a row here I've been using 1-3-5. 1-3-5, 1-3-5, 5-3-2, well, excuse me, 5-3. And then 1-2-4. It's the first use of 4 here, except for the down note. There we go. Decided, but again strangely had not marked, that the F in the left hand in 269, which is after the big F major chord, will be 4th finger because it's so much easier to get to than to put my whole hand way up in the keys and then quickly crossing. Here's where I use the other page, the other score. Let me do it in reverse. So interesting that I chose to play the 7th with a 2 on top, just again because the long finger enables me to stay away from the right hand. Whoops. I'm not. Would you believe I'm continuing to experiment because I'm not sold on what I was semi-sold on yesterday. I'm reverting just for experimental purposes to my older fingering with 4, and just making the distinction between the placements of the hands that much more distinct. Okay. Enough stuff that doesn't really pay off, so I've got to make this pay off. This is definitely the most challenging part of this section. Okay, so I'm thinking what I need to do is to regroup. I need to find where I am the most comfortable, hands together. In other words, very often you'll find a group that works in one hand or another, but, well, if you think of scales, for example, where the hands turn at different times. When you're a beginning scale learner, you may think, okay, here's a turn to the right hand, here's a turn to the left, a turn to the right, a turn to the left. There's an awful lot of thought going on. At a given point, depending on how you feel, you're normally going to have a series of groups all compounded into one group. And that group will be led by whatever hand needs to be dominant for that moment. It could be, if you're right-handed, the right hand, but it could be, if you're left-handed, the left hand, or in this case, it could be the left hand because the left hand is going to the thumb and its gesture is inherently more comfortable and more dependable. Or I might just think, when I learn it well enough, 2 octaves worth. But in any event, learning group by group in one hand may be completely changed by the grouping of the other hand. So in this case, what I'm curious about is what will make it feel the most comfortable. In other words, if I were breaking this down into right hand groups alone, as I did previously when I was talking about measure 251. One hand group, another hand group, and a third. Now similarly here, the notes are rather similar, right? We have B minor. Instead of this, we have... Now 4, 3, 2, 1 is all white notes. 4, 2 here is tilted in the direction as it was in that somewhat analogous thing in 251. And here we are 20 measures later in 271. So, and then this. Now meanwhile, the left hand is jumping up here while the right hand is concluding the group. So I have to decide, do those reinforce one another or not? Or in some fashion can I make sure that at the very least they don't distract me, the one from the other? And I wish my page would not distract me by misbehaving. Stay. Okay, so. Arrive. Now if I arrive, then don't concern myself with where my left hand is leaping to. In other words, if my decision and my choreography is led by the needs of my right hand here, it works for there. Now, let me just try it in reverse in my head. Now, you see, if I let my left hand lead here, it is much harder for me. Call it what you will. In my mind, in my body, whatever. It's much harder for me for the left hand to lead. So I'm looking at this 2-note slur, and instead of feeling the obvious linkage and placement of my hand, I feel the G is here, one part of the keyboard, the A flat is here in a completely other part. So even though they're a 16th note slur, I'm not thinking of them as 2 notes that are bound together. I'm thinking of them as 2 points in space, one gesture that gets me there, and it's all led by the needs of the right hand to start a new group there. So it's the left hand could almost be thought of as non-legato, even though so if I play just this, I have no problems whatsoever right now. So that's an indication that, organically speaking, that's a good solution for me. Now, it doesn't mean that I know what I'm going to do next, because the next one is more problematical anyway. So here I am. I have written second finger in the left hand. Why? Because I like the longer finger, right? I could use one. That's... If I were to use one, I'm just thinking out loud, I can assure you there's no scripts here. I'm not sort of faking what I've already learned beforehand. I'm actually working it out right now. So one possibility, if I did want to go with thumb, which is so much simpler to think about, to just go to one, then I really have to commit. I can't leave my third finger where it would fall on the D. I have to move my hand to where both notes, both hands would be comfortable. So I have to... So the question is, can I do all that quickly enough? And I'm not sure I can. I can even try my old fingering, which was second finger on D. And that's really terrible. And let me try this. That just feels so unbelievably weird. Now if I'm able to do this and get back to F sharp, this is one grouping that seems to be reasonably doable, namely to commit fully to coming out toward my body on the third in the right hand, which is a long finger, on the two in the left hand, which is a long finger, and is coming from a black note. And then I just have to assure myself I can get back to F sharp. That's a lot of talking and a lot of analysis about a mini little group, but the fact is it's those little things that bug you. I think what often happens is they get sealed up like an irritant in a pearl. Well, the irritant is still there. The pearl may look pretty, but it's sealing up an irritant that will never go away. What you want to do is to be able to expel the irritant entirely. That is, if you want to be a happy oyster. So in my head, if I go to D and start fresh on the F sharp, certainly would be easier to get to F sharp with 1, 2, 4 in the right hand. But then my left hand is interfering so dramatically in my right hand's well-being. It's not bad. Grouping is this, and this, sorry, and this. Starting to sound better, no? Okay, so it's starting to sound not bad at all. Often intensity, I know it's forte, but often intensity will masquerade, will mask your solution. In other words, if you play loudly, you may not hear clarity of something. So I often want to make sure that even if something is written forte or fortissimo, that if I can't play it lightly, and I don't mean pianissimo, I mean a very moderate range dynamically, so I can know that my body is embracing the solution and that there's a clarity to it. So going and being too earnest in my sound or in my articulation and effort, that doesn't tell me whether I'm doing well. and I felt good about that. Okay, so I think I've hit upon an attitude that tends to work, as you can determine already. Sometimes things change. But this, which is completely outside of the realm of what I was dealing with conceptually yesterday, even though I had what I think were the right hand divisions and the right revised fingering, I didn't have that sense of ease in me. Okay, I am going to go on. Let's see. So. Sharp. This is measure 274. Okay, here we are again. This is a dramatically different sensation because even though some of the figuration, the initial figuration is the same, the hands are further apart, so they don't interfere with one another at all. Whoops. So. 1, 2, 4, 3 times in a row. I wrote it 2 times in a row and doubted just that moment. So. I remind myself there's more of a tilt. Squared off, black, white, white, tilted, white, black, white, fairly square, and then these are similar, even though they're different. This one is slightly more appropriate for the body because the long finger, the second, is on the black note. These are chromatic inversions of one another. White, black, white becomes black, white, black. Here's, so I have tilt, square, away. Decision to make, not a big one, and I'd better be wise enough to make it while my left hand is around. I can either go 1, 3, 5, 4 and turn my hand over, or go to thumb on C sharp, and that tends to be easier to get to. 1, 2, 4, which is a different fingering from the preceding line when I went and I had all this gymnastics, including this. So maybe that's to my advantage, that a changed fingering representing a break in the action or a change of where it goes is a good thing, because going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 1, 2, 4 on the B minor chord on 276 will signal that the ensuing passage is very different. Yeah, I don't think I've done that before. Not sure, but I'm sure now that I like the 1, 2, 4. Okay, so I have to know that my left hand is playing E flat and then G chords. Why? Because I want to be able to, at least for now, concentrate on the right hand. So if I know what my left hand is doing, and preferably if I can play it by feel, that wasn't quite right there. I got to think second inversion chord, so 4 and 2 further apart. First inversion chord, so 4 and 2 closer together. Okay, that stuff is, even though that's outside of the realm of the non-stop 16th notes, actually they weren't non-stop 16th notes because we still had a couple of triplets thrown in for good measure. In music that's a pun, but we won't care. Quickie shifts in octave placements, for example, in this piece. I'm not sure even the fingering I just wrote down yesterday. 3-2. I was looking for a third, it's really a second. It's written as a diminished third, as Prokofiev does so often. Prokofiev, well, I don't know. I must say, I shouldn't assume that Prokofiev's placement of notes on the staff or on the staves indicates that he's always suggesting which hand does what. In this case, I interpreted this as being left and right, but I don't think it could have possibly meant that. So I just indicated that the right hand would come down and play C sharp D. So. Contrast. This is indicated. This is indicated as being a left-hand note. The fingering indicates second finger. That's interesting. There is a fingering indicated here that puts thumb on B flats, which, as most of you will know, is, well, it'll give you a bunch of four-note groups, but it won't give you, well, that would work, if my left hand takes. So, let's see. I think, in this case, his hand division, as indicated by the stem directions, is good. Okay. 2 black notes on the outsides. Sometimes that aids me a lot more than telling myself what the notes are. In other words, the feel that I'm expecting than a third finger black note in the right hand, left hand. Now, my tendency, my normal desire in playing F sharp, G sharp, this diet is to play at 2-3. However, it doesn't work very well with getting me to this 6 with D sharp on top. So, so 1 and 2 is going to fit the bill much better. I could consider a thumb. It's just not worth it under these circumstances. I've got plenty of room for my hand. So I've got 1, 4, 5. Again, this diminished seventh. G sharp, B, and F in 283. My hand benefits from going 1-4-5. It immediately is more likely to find me the right notes than 1-3-5 would do for me. Especially because if I am coming from second finger E, going to 3 would be horrendously slow and awkward. So I have. It's still awkward. Maybe it's not that awkward, but what it is less than predictable right now. Okay, my left hand has to come considerably under my right for this to work. If I well, that's kind of weird. I could do that. It's actually kind of fun. It's like swimming or something. It also creates more of an accent. There's only one accent mark. Down here, 2-4, gives me the next two chords without having to think about them. So this is the sort of thing that's just not readable at tempo because the hands are jumping around so much, and if you don't know where you're going, if you can't see where you're going, or at least place your hands in an identifiable position, you'll never get the notes. 2-4. Okay, that's good. Well, again, the passage is not perfect, but the passage is cooking. And I'm going to take a break because it's been fairly intense work. And I want to be intense next time around too.